Então, como nossa primeira apresentação terá duas partes, e eu convidaria, então, para a primeira parte, o Dr. Juan Daniel Silva. Ah, não, é o contrário? Ah, desculpe. Então, eu convidaria para a primeira parte o Dr. Wayne Stange, que tem o seu doutorado em MBA da Universidade de Witwatersrand, em Johannesburg, na África do Sul. Ele trabalhou como diretor da área de não-ferrose de tecnologia em Brisbane, na RASH, em Brisbane, na Austrália, durante 10 anos. Ele foi consultor, também trabalhando na Austrália durante cerca de 10 anos, e ele se juntou à AMIRA há 3 meses atrás, né, onde ele, então, atua como diretor-geral. Então, bem-vindo.
Good morning, everybody, and I'm very pleased to be here this morning to give you an overview of AMIRA International, and Juan Daniel will talk to you about our work in Latin America and some of the environmental projects that we're involved in. And I'd just like to thank Renato Ciminelli for the opportunity to do this today. So as I said, I'll just start by giving you a bit of background and status in terms of AMIRA International. AMIRA was created out of industry need in Australia almost 50 or more than 50 years ago. So it's a long-running institution, and it's grown quite slowly over time to the organization it is today. But it was originally created because industry didn't have a means of coordinating research and development in Australia. Australian mining industry was facing some significant challenges in terms of growing and opportunities to grow and develop. So AMIRA was founded, and as you can see from the slide, to promote and facilitate in many different ways a research and development service for mining and mineral industries and associated. So fundamentally, we're a member organization. We represent members, so people who own and operate mines, as well as suppliers of services to those members. And you can see some of the original members of AMIRA there, Broken Hill, Western Mining. The interesting thing is very few of those companies, the mining industry has changed that much that many of those companies don't exist anymore, but AMIRA as an institution and an organization has adapted to the changes in the industry and is still a dynamic organization. So how do we work? We really regard our key stakeholders as industry members and suppliers and then research providers. You can see some of the industry members that we have. We have about 85 industry members at the moment, and they range from some of the very large organizations like Vale, BHP, Billiton, Rio Tinto, really most of the mining organizations that you would think of, as well as key suppliers like Boart Longyear and Hatch and so on. Then from working with our industry members, we try and understand their business needs. And then our other major stakeholders are a number of research organizations, and SMI, and part of the SMI is the JKMRC, which has been the key member or the key research organization that has driven AMIRA's longest running project, which is being called P9, which has been going on for almost 50 years now. CSIRO, codes, really all of the world-class research centers in mining and minerals AMIRA works with. So what we do for our members is we broker and develop projects that draw in research organizations that can be regarded as leading research organizations, match that up with the business needs of our members, and then we effectively put together projects We leverage the cost of those projects between multiple members, as well as trying to access government funding whenever it makes sense and when we can do that. We then provide a sense of oversight to those projects to make sure that they delivered in the way that they were designed to. And then we assist in terms of technology transfer, and our view of our role in that is to try and make sure that our industry members understand the outcomes of the research and to try and facilitate the use of that research in their organizations. So really we try and make research as effective as possible for our members. And fundamentally we deal in collaborative research. Research that is pre-competitive, where we can work with multiple research providers and multiple industry members. So what value do we create for our industry members? Over time, it's become clear that AMIRA helps broker large-scale, long-term research and development that no single organization would be able to sustain on its own. Even large organizations like Vale and so on wouldn't be investing the level of funding that have gone into some of AMIRA's long-term large projects. And over time we've found that transforms industry practices. There are many examples of the way industry practices certain things now that AMIRA projects have fundamentally transformed over decades. But we also try and balance that long-term improvement with some very short-term operational improvements. We often do case studies on specific sites to help our members get benefit quickly. We help members access the best researchers in a particular area, so we keep databases of researchers and establish networks of researchers. Our oversight function helps to reduce the risk of delivery of research. You'll often hear sponsors say, well, we paid a lot of money for this research. We didn't get anything out of it. We didn't get anything useful out of it. Part of AMIRA's role is to work with members and researchers to try and make sure that value is delivered. We reduce the cost of research to any particular organization by this brokered capability. Splitting the costs between several parties rather than one party paying, and then we also access government funding when the circumstances allow. We do a lot of work in terms of the administration and legal and commercial contracts that bind multiple researchers together to multiple members. And anybody who's tried to put in place complex agreements between researchers on different continents, members on different continents, in different languages, knows that that's not a simple task. We have a well-developed understanding of how to manage intellectual property and the ownership of that and the exploitation of that, and that's another service that we offer to try and reduce the risk around research. Intellectual property can sometimes be one of the biggest stumbling blocks in terms of getting collaborative research going. What we find is that we hold a number of research meetings and so on, and that allows our researchers and our members to get to know each other, and that helps develop careers and personal development and so on. And more recently, AMIRA's taken an approach where we try and structure projects so that we have parties in the project, maybe suppliers, who can commercialize and transfer the development from that project as effectively as possible. So those are some of the things that we think we do which creates value for our members. There's an equally strong proposition for researchers though, and that's why a number of very eminent research organizations have chosen to work with AMIRA for decades. One of the things that's, I think, quite clear to demonstrate is that if you're successful at participating in this high-impact, long-term, large program of research, you can build institutions and teams rather than just supporting sort of key researchers and their students. So, for example, SMI codes are all large institutions rather than single researchers, which is a much more sustainable research approach over time and leads to high levels of funding into universities and so on by doing that, and AMIRA facilitates that approach. Also, obviously, because AMIRA works internationally, we can help research organizations based in a particular part of the world access a global client base interested in their work. Again, equally for universities, having somebody help with the administration, legal and commercial contracts is of significant advantage. Our general approach to intellectual property is to have the ownership retained by the researchers or their organizations, and therefore most research organizations are quite happy to see that. And the funding that is raised through this collaborative research certainly helps improve the viability of university research groups and teaching departments that depend on that. And I think, ultimately that helps you to not just attract and retain the best researchers, but the best students as well. So generally AMIRA works across the value chain. We do projects in exploration and geoscience, which is a very strong part of our business, mining, processing and extraction, and then I guess in more recent years have introduced sustainability and environment projects, as well as industry's attention has started to focus on sustainability much more seriously. AMIRA is a network organization. We have a team of people really in all the major mining countries, Australia and Asia, Chile and Latin America, Canada and the US, and South Africa and Africa. So there's some projects that have AMIRA, some high impact projects that AMIRA has been involved in. P9 has been going on for 48 years and has dealt with the simulation and modeling of mineral processing and has transferred lots of innovations into industry. More recently, 843 has combined geological and geoscience understanding with metallurgical understanding to optimize how ore bodies can be processed and so on. But generally we have long-standing multi-year programs delivering progressive improvements to industry rather than step change improvements, and these are all programs that wouldn't typically be undertaken by one organization. That isn't particularly visible, but for example, there's a case study of one of the AMIRA projects, P260, which independently reviewed, and the view that came out from the project auditors is that in this case that project contributed almost $500 million of value over and above the cost of the research to the minerals industry. So don't think there's any question about these sort of projects delivering very tangible value. That doesn't include the economic value that comes out of training people and creating skills and infrastructure and research infrastructure and so on. One of the things we do know is any members that want to extract value from AMIRA projects need to get deeply involved, and I would say the same goes for researchers. So not only should you get involved in the AMIRA research project, but you need to internally use the tools and knowledge and so on that have been developed by the project and implement that in your own organization. And our members who do that well are the ones that really do land up delivering a significant amount of value. Just a snapshot of what AMIRA looks like at the moment. We have about 83 members, as I said earlier, ranging from very large mining companies to smaller companies, mid-range companies, producers and suppliers. So AMIRA has become quite a broad organisation over time. Over the last 10 years, our focus has been on becoming a more international organisation, and we now have staff in all the key places in the world. We currently have about 35 projects going on, covering those areas that I talked about earlier. Generally, our value, our portfolio at any given time is about $80 million of research, with about $15 to $20 million worth of projects starting every year. In our projects at the moment, we'd have about 200 researchers working on those from about 60 different research institutions. And since we were formed, we've managed and put together about 1,000 projects. So lots of experience and history that has come through that. So I'll now ask Juan Daniel to talk more specifically about Latin America.
Obrigada, Wayne.